Good day, good day, good day. We are in it to win it. We will definitely be live this weekend for the Wolfpack Grudge Race just to get some things out of order. Top three prizes. Some of those top three prizes have already been sent out. Also, do keep in mind that the shirts will follow. As for keychains, I got Julius taken care of, Miss Dino taken care of, Glass, 083, Mary Beanie, Darth, and Chebe did not reach out, did not send information. So those did not get sent out. You're still trying to do that. Let me know. I'm going to give you until this coming up Sunday. And if not, Galactus will be refunded the difference for the keychains not sent out. So I am going to make sure I get that money back to that brother as he did sponsor those. But the T-shirts on the other end for the top three, those will be sent out this week as well. So just keep in mind, look out for your emails and your tracking numbers. Now let's get to this situation right here. Also, like I said, this Sunday grudge race, we will have a grudge race this Sunday. That link and that is already up. So you can bookmark that, set notifications, get ready for that. So Oscar Piastri, McLaren, definitely had not the best weekend. Let's just call it like it is. It wasn't a good weekend. I'm not going to even say not the best weekend. Saying not the best weekends is saying in comparison to other good weekends, it wasn't as good. It wasn't a good weekend at all. What's going on, Julius? Popping into the chat. It wasn't a good weekend. It was a very underperforming, very mixed, very what the hell is this type weekend going on? And the most important area that I want to focus on is that McLaren and their way of being right now is going to cost one of their drivers potentially a driver's championship. Is it a large margin of error that would have to take place in order for Max Verstappen to win a championship this season? Yeah. Is it impossible? No, it's not impossible. And I said this from the beginning, and I'm still going to stand by this. There are some things at play here that definitely have to be considered. What's going on, Miss Dino in the chat? What's up, South Africa? And that is this. If Oscar Piastri wins this championship that Oscar Piastri, and I even have to throw Lando in there a bit. I'm going to say there are some concessions for the Lando North situation, given that and this is where I'm kind of looking at McLaren a little bit sideways. Given McLaren went out of their way, and this is also where I tell a lot of purists that always say Formula One standards are this, you can't modify this car, not this car. Don't listen to people that say that. I build cars and have been in cars for a majority of my life. I'm not going to hear anybody tell me that, yeah, you can't develop these cars separately. Yes, you can. Yeah, you can. You can develop separately to a degree within this cost cap. There's a such thing that's called modifications can be made to this car without costing an obscene amount of money. There have been plenty of examples of teams having cars that aren't modified the same, that aren't developed the same, that have either the last revision and not the current revision. So I'm not hearing any of that crap. And I get tired of certain people just trying to say it because it sounds good and it sounds like that's the right thing to say in Formula One. Listen, cut the bullshit. It doesn't have to be that way because we've already seen it not be that way. We literally just learned that Yuki did not have updates to his car that Max Verstappen has had for some time, and people claim they didn't know. So stop it. We literally last season had teams go back to revisions of their prior development because they thought it was better, while other teammates decided, I want to keep this revision of the car because it works better for me. So I'm not going for that. And McLaren has went out of their way to make an update some races ago for Lando Norris so they felt he could participate better. That same update was not made for Oscar Piastri, at least not right then and there in that race. And I don't know if it ever was made to Oscar Piastri's car. Insured Frames was popping. The likely result that either McLaren driver wins the title, it'll be, in my opinion, the first time in a long time that an elite great driver hasn't won the championship. To me, that would be 2009. Big shout out to Insure Frames, man. And that would bring me back to, because I digressed, Insure Frames with his comment, bringing me back to what I was going to say. If Oscar Piastri wins this championship, this is going to be highly regarded as probably this. It's not even probably. If Oscar Piastri wins this championship, it's better than any other championship Max Verstappen has won. If Max Verstappen wins this championship, it's better than any of the championships that he has previously won. This will be without the most dominant car, but still one of the fastest car, but within equal ranging variation of competition. And I told everybody this from the beginning. If for some way, somehow, outside of anything being very suspect and illegal, because up until now, you can heavily debate that with the other four, this is going to be a legit championship win. If Lando Norris wins this championship, it's not going to be as rivaled and as debated as the other championships that Max Verstappen's won or the crash gate situation with Alonso, but it's going to have some small concession. It's going to have some small asterisks in there. There's going to be some talk of, well, you kind of needed your team to make sure that they didn't allow your teammate to run away on you. Well, you kind of needed your team to do some things for you that they didn't really do for your other teammate on the other side of the garage. Well, most teams, especially Red Bull, when they know they have a defined number one driver, they typically, we want to get the Constructors' Championship, but let's also protect the Drivers' Championship for not being either one of our drivers. That just is what it is. So, we do have a chart, and it is to say this is a large margin of error that would have to take place. We're talking about Oscar Piastri basically not being in the top 10 for the remainder of the season for either, and especially Max Verstappen to win. We're talking about, now I would like to say this, we're talking about Max Verstappen winning at least another 7 races and not placing outside of the top 10 going forward. At this point in time, from what we are seeing, that's not impossible. But it's also not impossible that McLaren foul it up. Do I think it's likely that McLaren drivers don't finish outside of the top 10 for the rest of these races going forward? I don't think that's likely. But I will say, and this is a message for Oscar Piastri, if things can go wrong, things will go wrong. And you have to tighten up. Pressure does 2 things. It either busts pipes or it builds diamonds. One of the 2. Oscar Piastri, up until this point, has shown us a resilient and dog of a driver that we would all like to appreciate. Somebody who can be a dog on track, but still have some civil to them. Somebody who isn't going to do something so obscene and so catastrophically dangerous to another driver like Max Verstappen has done and probably will continue to do, but still be able to drive very hard and competitively next to him. Somebody who, in my opinion, has definitely shown us better will-to-will driving than Max Verstappen has. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Max Verstappen's not the GOAT. Oscar Piastri is not anywhere going to be regarded as a GOAT right now. But Oscar Piastri, if he wins this championship and some other championships, and he keeps growing, he will be a better driver than Max Verstappen in the next 3 seasons. Max has even said himself, that dude don't make a lot of mistakes. And one thing Max hasn't said that I know Max knows within his own mind, he's not afraid of me. He's not afraid to get next to me. He's not afraid to overtake me. He's not afraid to say what he feels about me. He's not afraid to compete against me. He's not going to say that about Lando because he knows it's not true. And if McLaren can continue to build Oscar a competitive car, And if Oscar can continue to develop as a driver, if Oscar can continue to build himself mentally, because let's not get it twisted, Oscar Piastri is now in a position that he has never been in. And up until now, we have seen him be resilient. It is highly possible that Oscar Piastri mishandles mentally this situation. I'm hoping that while he was sitting there on the side of the track watching 99% of the race with him not in it, I am hoping that something just came over him and said, I cannot do this. I cannot make these type of mistakes. I cannot push myself or push my car in such a manner that I know it is not properly prepared for. I can't screw up race starts. You can't go do Lando's. You can't go do Lando's. Lando is largely known to screw up a race start. And I'm not even talking about false start. I'm talking about getting off the start, even in the green light area. And we damn sure know he's not going to be dependent. Nobody is going to tell me you're going to put money on Lando, either him being in the first spot or the second spot, interchangeable with Max Verstappen, and you tell me Lando is going to win that battle to the first turn more times than not. You can't sell me on that. You can sell me on Oscar Piastri might damn sure do it. So Oscar has to tighten up. He's got to tighten up because Max has tightened up. As he gave Oscar the compliment that he doesn't make a lot of mistakes, Max doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And I'm going to give him credit for the way he did the restart. And you know who schooled Max Verstappen on restarts? Lewis Hamilton. Max Verstappen learned a lot from Max Hamilton on restarts. Because Lewis is going to restart this race at the most inopportune moment for you. And Max learned that from him, especially in 2021. And the way Max restarted the race with Carlos Sainz behind, although let's keep it a buck, we're not talking about like Max was driving with the utmost top competitive cars. In that moment he was, though, because it would seem McLaren couldn't be competitive even throughout the weekend to a degree. Although qualifying situation played in Max's favor, but Max put himself in a position to be in there. So the restart was crazy nice. Restart was crazy nice. Let's just keep it a buck. I mean, I'm not saying I like Max Verstappen, but the race restart, that was some shit that I could appreciate how he did that. He played Carlos pretty well. And Carlos is a very cerebral driver. So that was pretty fire. Oscar's just going to have to make sure he's on top of his game. And Oscar's going to have to make sure that he doesn't fall victim to things like this, because this is something that Oscar has been doing that I definitely know he has to stop doing. And that is making these mistakes that allow the FIA to then penalize him, which can cripple his race championship campaign. Fortunately for Oscar, this penalty resides in the same moment as his mistake. And fortunately for Oscar, Lando wasn't able to do much of anything. And it would have been great had Oscar been able to finish that, because he likely would have put a larger gap between he and Lando, he and Max Verstappen. But not being able to finish this race, it really draws it back in. But this 5-second time penalty, it's fortunate that it's just here, right? But then there's a warranted thought that why is it, and I'm glad it's just here, but why is it that Oscar's 5-second penalty just exists in this race and not applied to the next event? Because it doesn't say it's applied to the next event. It's 5-second time penalty there. There could be a few different reasons there, right? Oscar, but then we also say, if this was Max Verstappen, have we not seen that maybe they weigh in and say, well, he didn't finish the race and he wrecked himself out, so technically that's kind of a penalty in itself. No further action needed. So I understand the debate on one side as compared to Max Verstappen, who gets away with a lot and does plenty in Formula One that is definitely underhanded. And then on the other end, Lewis Hamilton catches penalties and they're applied to the maximum in some ways where it seemed very unfair. I can understand on both sides, but this is how it should be. The penalty exists where the penalty happened, unless there are extenuating circumstances that say, listen, that shit was so egregious, you're definitely going to see this on the next racing event. You're definitely going to catch it. There was nothing egregious about this. It was a false start, and we should never say that a false start is okay. We should never say that somebody false starting is okay, especially if you can look and say, you know what, by way of the team or by way of you, we got to look at it and see what happened, but it's still your machinery and it's still you operating it. It's still going to be a penalty. And I think that this penalty is fair. I also think that it's fair. It's just in Baku, Azerbaijan, not somewhere going next. And this is how it should be. But this is one of the many things and the many reasons why I keep pointing out the FIA and their inability to consistently govern the sport of Formula One. When we see things that, okay, this is a line, and the next time we see something, it's like, that's totally outside of bounds. That's totally out of bounds. And then here it is, nothing's in bounds because you didn't even penalize this guy for something that he did egregiously. And now you're going to say the time served based on something else. We also have to remember plenty of times that these penalties should not hinge on the in-the-moment situations. Saying that another situation that occurred doesn't make up for the penalty that should have been applied to a situation that's totally separate from something that occurred. And they've done that plenty of times with Max Verstappen. They've gone overboard on one spectrum and way under on another one. So Oscar Piastri doesn't need to make any more mistakes. He doesn't need 5-second time penalties. He doesn't need to get any more penalties in qualifying or anything that's going to happen in a race weekend that's going to be applied to a grid drop. And do also keep in mind, remember what I said about these power units. McLaren are there. Depending on how and when they take a power unit, we're talking about a penalty. Max Verstappen has taken a power unit, and guess what? He can take another one before he gets a penalty. That's another situation that I think has bolstered Max Verstappen into a racing form right now, is that McLaren's racing with older engines. Max has got a fresher power unit, and there's said to be some updates to the floor. Now, come into the next racing event. That's what's also going to show us, is this real? Is this a real situation? Is this a real result that is going to give the Red Bull car a competitive advantage throughout the rest of the circuits, right? Because right now it kind of seems track dependent. It kind of seems lower down force situations is where this car is going to come alive. And now we're going to go into, we're about to go into the fire of what I would consider the depths of hell when it comes to heat and environmental conditions for these drivers. Singapore is nothing to be trifled with. Baku is the conjuring of race circuits. Singapore is the hell of race circuits when it comes to temperature and environment. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be pressure. It's going to be trying. And another thing it's going to be is a data point of if the Red Bull car is actually a car that's been updated that's going to compete throughout the rest of this Formula One season. And I think it's also going to be a very trying test for Mercedes. So these are points that can be taken off of McLaren and their drivers going forward, different teams and different drivers. I don't think Mercedes is going to perform well here, but if they do, that's going to be another test for them. And it's funny that I said at the beginning of the season that Mercedes was going to be tested, and people said I was hating on Mercedes. Evidently, factually, I wasn't. It's still a true lingering situation that Mercedes has to deal with. So, yeah, McLaren is going to still play their we're not choosing sides game, and it could come back to bite them in the ass. And I think Oscar Piastri knows this, and I want to see what happens if they try to tell these drivers to, especially in these two racing events. I want to see what's going to happen when they tell these two drivers, we're going to need you to switch positions, Singapore and Coda. These are going to be two racing events that are going to really, really matter. Singapore and Coda. Temperature's about to change. These are two very trying circuits. Singapore, to me, is a circuit where you do need to qualify well. You're going to need to qualify well. As trying as Singapore can be, it can also be a boring race. But Coda is not that. So we got two different, very different dynamic races coming up in the next week, 3rd and the 17th. So this week, we're going to be grudge racing. The following week, we're going to be right back in it. So y'all make sure that y'all show up for that. Make sure that if you want to grudge race with us in the F1 2025 game, send an EA Sports invite request or be in the live chat 15 to 20 minutes prior with your EA game tag, your gamer tag, so I can send you a request to join the race. If you come in there doing any type of foolery, you're going to get ejected. We're not doing that, all right? So big shout out to everybody. Oscar Piastri needs to tighten it up. There are still some very questionable things to me a little bit with the Red Bull situation, but it always has been, right? It's never not been. And we do have a very interesting season ahead of us. I'm hoping Oscar Piastri pulls it out. That's my dog since he came in. I've rooted for him as a rookie. I'm rooting for him now. I like his style. I like what he does. Hadjar is another driver I'm rooting for real. I don't know what's going to happen as things change, like I say, with Red Bull and him going up because the environment is changing there. I'm hoping very good things for Hadjar. And I'm very it's a positive thing to see Kimi Antonelli have some decent results here to kind of boost and motivate him and get him out of that downward spiral because it kind of sucks seeing him in that. So I want to see him do better as well. So, all right, you all. See you on the next one. We'll be live again. We'll definitely be live on Sunday for Grudge Race, but we'll probably be live again before that, talking about some things in Formula One, all things Formula One. And big shout out to those sent out those prizes. And I really appreciate everybody just having a good time talking about Formula One, kicking it back and forth. Every now and things get a little heated and a little trying, but hey, it is what it is. Just don't go too far. See you on the next one. Peace.